to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, first show of 2025, brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up that you're hanging out with us here on this Thursday. Luke Johnson, I think, is going to be with us in 15 minutes. Was a little late in sending the confirmation text to Luke. We've had to move things around ever since Darren Rizzi took over. So we'll try to run Luke down at some point or another, talk about the Saints as they get ready to finish their season in Tampa coming up on Sunday. College football playoff, most of it in the rearview mirror. A little bit more coming up in 2 hours from right now. We'll talk about it. I've got some predictions for LSU sports in 2025. We'll get to in hour number 2. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, talking Texas Bowl as well as LSU opening conference play in hoops coming up on Saturday. So lots to get to with the voice of the Tigers. They're fired up that we can get this thing rolling here in 2025. We'll start the same way we start each and every day, and that's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU wins the Texas Bowl back on Tuesday night. 44-31 was the final. And look, I told you entering the game that the result to me was not necessarily all that important. I'm not going to hide from that since LSU won the game. I certainly would have stuck to that had LSU have lost the game. But I did say entering the game that, hey, I think it's going to be fairly competitive because Baylor's kind of got its whole team from a group that's won 6 in a row, albeit against pretty mediocre competition. And LSU was probably a better team than Baylor in the season and had been compromised a little bit offensively, so maybe you knocked them down a peg. Probably going to be a fairly competitive game. And it was a fairly competitive game. I will grant you that. I thought LSU was the better team, and I thought LSU actually played pretty well. Now, there were issues, but those issues, in my estimation, were masked because LSU's quarterback is really freaking good. I said that on the postgame show on the network, and I will say that here locally. Like, I just thought Garrett Nussmeier was excellent in this game. Consider the fact, as you well know, that LSU was playing this game without its 2 high draft pick tackles, without one of its 3-year starting guards, and with the other guard kicking out the tackle to play there for the first time in 3 years. Consider that LSU is playing without the most productive tight end in school history, as well as 2 of the top 3 receiving options at wide receiver. Garrett Nussmeier was basically working with a patchwork cast of characters. He comes out, leads a 12-play, 68-yard drive for a touchdown that I thought was very, very well called by Joe Sloan and expertly executed by Garrett Nussmeier. There was a huge 4th down there that he hit Trey'Dez Green on in a gorgeous little out route. Touchdown. LSU then goes 3 and out and they punt, but the next 2 drives right down the field, 5 plays, 81 yards, touchdown, 6 plays, 58 yards, touchdown. So you've scored a touchdown on a sizable drive, 3 of your first 4. And then on the 5th drive, LSU drives it down and Garrett Nussmeier hits Aaron Anderson right in the hands in the back of the end zone, and Anderson can't corral it. Of course, the next snap is a blocked field goal, but if Anderson catches that ball, then you're talking about 4 of the first 5 drives being touchdowns. And then the 6th drive was only stopped because Nussmeier threw a seed over the middle to Aaron Anderson, who caught it, was making a big play, and fumbled. 2 rough snaps in what was a great year for Aaron Anderson. But the point is that, like, it's very conceivable that due to Nussmeier's play, LSU could have scored touchdowns on 5 of its first 6 drives, with a completely new cast of characters against what we know to be a really quality defensive mind. Now, Baylor's personnel on defense isn't great, but Aranda's a good defensive coach. He had a month to get his guys ready, and Nussmeier just shredded them. And when the night was done, Garrett Nussmeier finished with another 300-yard game, his 8th of the season. He throws for 3 touchdowns, could have easily been 4, could have easily been 5. And he used guys that he hadn't had to use all year. So to me, my biggest takeaway in this game was that Garrett Nussmeier is a dude. And I understand that he made a terrible throw on that interception. It was a terrible throw. It was. And he's got to eliminate that portion of his game. But trust me, I would rather try to eliminate one throw a game than try to improve 20 throws a game that aren't any good because your quarterback's not a very good player. And y'all have to remember that we watched a lot of that over the last 20 years in Baton Rouge. You can't let 2 years in 19 and 23 take away from the sizable portion that we saw of guys that just could not play the position. Nussmeier's now got an offseason where he's going to have to clean up those misreads. There are always going to be missed throws, and I get that. But I've talked at length over the course of the last 3 months about the repeated bad decisions that Garrett has made that have cost LSU dearly. A couple of bad ones in College Station in the second half. The interception he throws at the goal line against Alabama when you got a chance to make it a one-score game. And then this one against Baylor, which was in an inopportune spot. I rattled off those first 6 drives. The 7th one, after Baylor had drew closer, he throws a pick and sets him up in a prime scoring opportunity. That's the step that Garrett's got to take. But I got to tell you, I feel pretty good about it because you saw Chris Hilton and Trey'Dez Green in this game exactly indicate what kind of skill set they have and where it can be useful in the LSU offense. Trey'Dez Green on a huge 4th down in the red zone. How good was that first throw that Nussmeier makes for a touchdown in the back of the end zone, right to Trey'Dez Green? Boom, in the back of the end zone. That's a size mismatch. It's a nightmare. Then the other touchdown catch, he lines up in line, delay, drags across the field, easy throw for Nussmeier. He is a matchup nightmare, as we said, in the red zone. And Chris Hilton, they could have used him. They could have used Chris Hilton this year because that skill set is one that you can't teach, and if you don't have it, you can't create it. And LSU didn't have it without Chris Hilton. Some of these guys are plenty fast. They're not as fast as Chris Hilton. And again, nobody is asking me to coach their defensive backs camp. I'm not Deion Sanders in the back pedal. But I know when I'm watching the replay and the Baylor corner is in his back pedal and Chris Hilton is gaining on him in his back pedal and he waits until Chris Hilton is even with him to flip his hips and try to run, good night. No shot. Not the corner from Bama, not the corner from Florida, certainly not the corner from Baylor is going to run with him when you're that late flipping your hips and running. So what do you have to do? Clemson's going to have to look at this all offseason, the tape from Oklahoma and Baylor, and they're going to see that our corner cannot wait to flip and run when Chris Hilton starts getting vertical. Well, what does that create? Soft coverage. And nobody on LSU's roster can create that like Chris Hilton. Now, Barrion Brown's coming in, and he can too, and that's the exciting part of this whole thing. You start to talk about Garrett Nussmeier and his productivity, and Chris Hilton and his skill set, and Aaron Anderson in the breakout year he had, and Nick Anderson's potential from his freshman year, and Barrion Brown's skill set that was underutilized at Kentucky. And you realize that this is a passing attack that looks really good, but it only looks really good if you can block. And LSU was doing this on Tuesday night with a cast of guys that had not been asked to play very much. Tyree Adams had not been asked to play very much. Bo Bordelon hadn't played much. Paul Mabenga, about a month. You realize Miles Frazier's moving on, but LSU finishes this game, and you didn't give up a sack. Garrett Nussmeier ended up with 34 pass attempts, not a sack to be had. That's impressive stuff. Baylor's not some elite squad, but again, it's these guys' first time. And you've already gone and gotten Braylon Moore at center. You've gone Northwestern to bring in a tackle. And you're probably not done there. This was always going to be kind of a look towards next year. And to me, offensively, LSU very, very much passed the test against Baylor. You come up with 44 points. You take off the 7 for the pick 6. You understand. But that's a really good offensive effort. And to me, the biggest story from this game was Garrett Nussmeier using these weapons to create a potent offense. And there's going to be a reason why when we get to July for SEC Media Days and to August for talking season, that Garrett Nussmeier is going to get a lot of Heisman hype. I'm not telling you he's going to win the Heisman. I'm not telling you he's going to New York guaranteed. I'm not telling you that LSU is going to win the SEC or be a college football playoff team. What I'm telling you is that you've got what I deem to be, my opinion, the best returning quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. I'm sure there will be folks in Gainesville that say they do. I'm sure there are probably some folks in Knoxville that feel like their guy's a year away. I'm sure there are people in Austin, Texas that are feeling pretty good about whichever guy is taking the snaps for them. I'm sure there are folks in Oxford, Mississippi who say it doesn't really matter who our quarterback is because we got Lane Kiffin and we'll score points anyway. What I'm telling you is I think Garrett Nussmeier is the best one returning, the most proven one who is returning. And that's a huge, huge thing as you move forward in the next season. I sat here in this chair. I sat on my kitchen table at my kitchen table, I should say. I didn't sit on it. At my kitchen table and typed out my pick for LouisianaSports.net, and I picked Baylor. Why? I said, well, LSU's strength is their passing game, and you've crippled it by taking away your offensive line and pass catchers. I don't think it'll be as good. I think Baylor will win the game. Nope. It was every bit as good. And that's because the one guy that you didn't have leave, Garrett Nussmeier, showed out. 304 yards, 71% completion, 3 touchdowns. The one bad pick, but he was really, really good. There's more to break down from this game, and we'll certainly do that, but that's our Genesis opening drive here on this Thursday. We're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. I have not heard from Luke, so I'll tell you this. We will either talk to Luke about the Saints from practice coming up, or I'll get into some of the other stuff from the Texas Bowl. Either way, lock it in. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Happy New Year from the folks at Highland Insurance Group. If you're a business owner and you're not real sure about your current insurance policy or would like to have somebody look over it, let the Highland Insurance Group take a look at it. It's a great time starting the year to get all your ducks in a row. And what I always tell you about insurance, it's important that you do that proactively and not reactively, because once the accident has already happened, once the breach has already occurred, once the lawsuit is in motion, it's too late. So have Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group help you. They should be a trusted part of your team, like your attorneys, like your CPA. Insurance is that important when something goes wrong. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, first one of 2025, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints, one game to go in Tampa, Florida. They'll finish out the regular season, and then all hands on deck for an offseason that will involve a head coaching search and the new era of New Orleans Saints football. Covering all of it for the Advocate is Luke Johnson. He's with us each and every Thursday. Luke, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing well. I know, obviously, a very, very tough time down there in the city of New Orleans. I'd be remiss if I didn't just ask kind of about the tenor around the Saints facility as they get ready to leave town, but understanding that the city's hurting a little bit.
Yeah, it's obviously yesterday was a really, really weird day just for anybody who lives in New Orleans. I think they opened up yesterday, like yesterday's practice, by saying like a prayer for those involved. That doesn't really happen very often, man. It's extraordinary circumstances here, and I think everybody's kind of feeling that, and it makes this last week just weird. It's just kind of a weird vibe, and I'm sitting out here at the facility right now. I got all the flags at half staff, and they got to focus on a game and everything, but it's just the game feels a little bit smaller.
Understandable, and that's kind of what we're here to just kind of talk about as a kind of an escape for people, I think, at times. So let's talk about kind of what's at stake here. I realize they're not going to the playoffs. I realize that some folks are worried more about the draft and the head coaching search, but players still going to compete, and obviously they've got an opportunity to impact Tampa. So what's the focus like in that locker room?
It's hard to say because I really feel like since Rizzi took over, the focus, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, it's all felt really positive. Even just talking to guys, they're saying nobody's checked out, and they're all saying the right things, and it feels that way. But it's hard to match that up with what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Getting blown out by Green Bay, and then it really being not competitive against a bad Raiders team. They can say the right things, but are they fully believing it? It's kind of hard to say. I will say that I think there's a decent chance that at least Chris Olave plays this week. We're still kind of waiting and seeing on what happens with Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara. I think I'd probably give Alvin a little bit better shot than Derek Carr. But I think they still might have some guys play, and I know people are making a big deal out of draft stuff, but they can go no lower. They currently own the 10th pick in the draft. They can't go any lower than that. Even if they win, they're locked in. 10 is as low as they can slide. And even if they lose, it's possible they could stay at 10th too, because they would need, one of or both of the Raiders and the Bears to lose or to win to move up, and both those teams are playing like playoff teams this week. So the draft order stuff, I think is just, I think you can just eliminate that from consideration when you're looking at this week's game. You can just feel totally fine rooting for the Saints to win because it's not. There's potential it doesn't change no matter what the outcome is.
You've been discouraged with Spencer Rattler over the last couple of weeks?
I don't know if discouraged is the right thing. I mean, it's just he's making mistakes that young rookie quarterbacks make, especially guys who, obviously there were some people who thought he should have gone higher in the draft, but like the reality is he was a 5th round pick. And when you surround him with what the Saints have offensively, like it's going to make the bad stuff look a lot worse. So yeah, I still think that it's even after 5 starts and 6 games, I still think it's just way too soon to make any sort of judgment on him. I still like that we're seeing some really good flashes out of him, but like, he's playing without 40% of his offensive line and basically the entire starting skill position group. So like I still it's just there's way too much gone for me to make any sort of like decisive judgment on his play. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Based on what you thought in August, how do you feel about Trevor Penning's year as it comes to a close?
I mean, I feel a lot better about him now than I thought this summer. I thought this summer was like a little bit of a okay, it's definitely not as bad as it had been his first 2 seasons, but like there's still potential for it to go pretty far south. And I think he's just steadily gotten better throughout the season to the point where, we've got something coming out in Sunday's paper where you're just looking at like, okay, who are the foundational pieces of this team? Like who are the players who are 28 and under, guys in their first or second contract who can help this team, throughout this rebuild. I put him on my top 10, which it probably tells you something about the state of the Saints roster, but I think he's at the very least giving you functional, average NFL offensive tackle play this year, which is a lot more than we thought we were going to get out of him. And I think that if he can continue to build on that and get on this like upward swing, he can be a good player for you. Like going into the year, we were legitimately wondering if he was going to be in the starting lineup at all, or if he was going to be benched midway through the year. And he's been like kind of one of the only guys on this team who's been there down in, down out, snap in, snap out. And he's played well enough to be kind of penciled in as the starter next year as well.
88 Pro Bowlers announced today. The Saints did not have one of 3 teams in the NFL without a Pro Bowler. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. I think JT Gray could have made it. He's been really, really good as usual on special teams, but like, even if JT Gray made it, that's a special teams player. Like he plays, 10, 11 snaps a game. They clearly have nobody on defense who is really worthy of it. And then when you look at them offensively, I mean, all their best players are hurt.
Yeah.
I think the only guy you could really make a case for is Alvin, who even having missed a couple games, 950 rushing yards, 1,500 scrimmage yards. Those are better numbers than he's put up in some of his other Pro Bowl seasons. But like he's really the only one that you can make a legitimate case for. Everybody else is just all their good players are hurt. Yeah, it would have been fun to see Rashid Shaheed play a whole season, and Chris Olave and Derek Carr, and see what they could have been with that offense. But their leading receiver has 450 yards or something like that. It's just there's nothing here, and the injuries played a big part of that. But it's just also just the talent in this roster is not good enough.
I thought Foster Moreau's had a pretty good month here in an offense that's looking for anybody to produce, and he's done a pretty good job of that. What have you made of his performance?
Yeah, I've really liked the season Foster's had. I wrote a story on him they published right before the Packers game. Obviously, that was a dud, but his numbers are really modest. But when you look at him kind of deeper, he's 30th most catches among tight ends in the NFL. It's whatever, but before that Packers game, it's probably pretty close to it still. It was 144 passer rating when targeting him. He has a team lead in touchdown catches. The advanced numbers really like him. He was number 9 among NFL tight ends in receiving EPA, expected points added, despite the fact that he'd barely been targeted. And beyond that, he is, as you know from the LSU days, he's an extreme glue guy, and he's the guy that kind of keeps everything from falling apart in a season like this. So he's been excellent, man. I'd like to see him a little bit more involved in the offense. He'll never be like a guy who's going to catch 70 balls a year, right? But I think he's proven he can handle a little bit more than what he's been given so far. And he's under contract for next year, and I'm certain the Saints will bring him back because he's a big part of what they like.
All right, let's talk big picture here briefly, because I'm not as concerned with how this game goes on Sunday. Like, Tampa seems to have found something with Baker. Like, they're playing pretty well. Obviously, you're seeing some flashes from Michael Penix over the last week and a half, and then Carolina hasn't been a dumpster fire the last couple of months. Do you feel like the South is moving forward a little bit, and the Saints are playing catch up?
Yeah, I think so. The South is still it still is what it is, right? Like the Bucs. They're 9-7.
Yeah.
And they're leading the division going into week 18. It's still not like a good division, but it's not like the dumpster fire that it has been the last couple of years. I think it's going to be harder for the Saints to win, and I think that's probably it's probably good for them to take that little dose of reality, right? Because with the division being what it was the last couple seasons, that's why we saw the Saints still be very aggressive in how they manage their roster, because it looked winnable. Like it looked like a division you could make the playoffs in. I think that's a little less certain now for the Saints. It might be just time to kind of bite the bullet and do the hard thing here, because we've seen this roster, like some version of this roster for the last 4 years just hasn't gotten the job done, and now it's just older. They have 48 players on their roster this year, including guys who are on IR who are 28 and younger. Only 3 of them have made a Pro Bowl. That's Eric McCoy, Rashid Shaheed, and JT Gray. And 2 of those guys made it as specialists, and McCoy was the only one they drafted. And this is guys who made a Pro Bowl in a Saints uniform. Obviously, Chase Young made it with Commanders. But, they've got to get younger, and they've got to get young impact players. Like, the draft is going to be so important for them this year and frankly, the next couple of years. Because, this thing that they have going right now isn't working. And like you said, the other teams in the division are getting better.
Certainly appears that way. One more. Enjoy your travels to Tampa, and we'll talk next week, Luke. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, buddy.
Luke Johnson at @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. You can follow him there for all your Saints coverage. We mentioned there at the top there, just obviously a really, really difficult day in the city of New Orleans yesterday, and honestly, it impacted our Guarantee family in multiple ways. The tragic attack there on Bourbon Street. For those that aren't aware, Tiger Besh, Jack Besh's older brother, was struck and killed in the accident. Tiger's uncle, Blaine, worked with us here for a number of years. I actually shared an office with Blaine for over a year. Just a great guy, a great friend, and obviously tragic situation there for the Besh family. Our thoughts very much with them. And then if you were listening to Live at Lunch earlier at the beginning, Charlie started their show with talking about EJ, Jimmy's son, who just graduated from Episcopal, had 2 friends that he was with on Bourbon Street 10 minutes before this event occurred. EJ got out, and his friends did not, and one of them is no longer with us. The other is still in hospital care there in New Orleans. Just an awful, awful situation for all those involved there, and certainly few of our folks here at Guarantee. So our thoughts and best wishes are with everyone here for this senseless, awful situation that went on yesterday on Bourbon Street. I wanted to briefly mention that. I understand that there are things that are far, far more significant than sports here, and we're going to do a sports show, so I wanted to mention that very much. We will go to break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk some college football playoff here on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. There are some things that just come with your purchase of a Genesis over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. How about 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty? How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? How about valet maintenance as well? Just could not be more convenient. Life is busy. We got places to be, got folks to see. You don't have time to sit there and have them work on your vehicle and take up half your morning. Well, Genesis takes that stress away from you. They'll just come get your car. They'll bring it in. They'll handle the work. They'll leave you a vehicle, and when it's done, they'll drive it right back to you. Whether that's at the home or at the office, Genesis is here to make things as easy as possible. If you're on airline near PQ. Stop on by. They're across from Women's Hospital. Fantastic team, amazing facility, and a really, really unbelievable line of vehicles at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It is the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. It's 2025. You're looking for a new ride. Genesis over at Genesis of Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
90 minutes until the Sugar Bowl kicks off down there in New Orleans. It'll be Georgia and Notre Dame from the Caesar Superdome was Mercedes-Benz. Caesar Superdome down there in the Big Easy. Certainly fired up to watch a little bit of that. I want to talk about the other college football playoff games that are in the rearview mirror now. It started back on New Year's Eve as I was getting into the postgame show for LSU and Baylor. Penn State just took it to Boise State. 31-14 was the final. I just thought Penn State was a much bigger, more physical, just more dominant in the game. You look at the box score simply without even watching the game, and you can realize that Ashton Genty, it took him 30 carries to get to his 100 yards, and a lot of that was late in the game when the issue was well decided. Penn State really bottled him up early. They went to the half leading 17-7. And I thought they were just really solid. I thought Penn State ran it right at Boise State. And I thought Drew Allar kind of did what they asked him to do. His stat line's not that great, but it was efficient. He had the 3 touchdown passes. He feels like he can always go to Tyler Warren when he needs to go to Tyler Warren, and he did go to Tyler Warren when he needed to go to Tyler Warren. Had the 2 touchdown catches, including the one early. I think Penn State's pretty good. I realize the narrative that they can't ever win the big one, and I'm not going to give them a ton of credit for beating SMU and Boise. We'll see what they can do in the next round. and whether or not they can validate themselves. But I do think they have a pretty good football team. I don't think they're a complete fraud. I think Boise State had no business being in the field. I've said that many times, and that seems validated. SMU seems validated. Of course, we're going to talk about Arizona State here in a second, and I'll put my hand up there and we'll talk about it. But to me, the story of this game was not that Boise State shouldn't be in the playoff. To me, the story was that Penn State played a pretty damn good football game, and they've really had a nice season. Yeah, they lost the 2 biggest games on their schedule. I didn't think they were completely outclassed in either of those games. I thought they lost them, and they usually lose big games. And you're not going to get anybody won over by beating Boise State, but I thought that they looked like a solid football team in that game. You move on in the games that we saw it's not the weekend. It feels like the weekend, over the last couple of days, and you talk about the Texas-Arizona State game in the Peach Bowl, and that was an absolute classic. And I realize that everybody just wants to talk about the targeting foul, and I'll start with that. That's targeting. I hate the rule. It's a stupid rule. It's absurd that folks are kicked out of games because they're moving really, really fast and helmets happen to touch. But in that instance, a defenseless receiver turned around and the safety used the crown of his helmet to hit him in the head and neck area. He did not launch. That was the only thing that he missed from that. But I haven't heard any dissenting opinions outside of the actual ref that made the call that would suggest that it wasn't targeting. It looked like it clearly was. And I was sitting there in my living room going, man, they're going to decide a playoff game based on this stupid rule. And I get the fact that we've got to protect football players. It's a violent sport. We're trying to be as safe as we possibly can. And I can't quibble with the intent of the rule. I think its enforcement has been laughable over the last 10 years. And I think that the consequence is far, far too severe. But I understand why they do it. And if we're going to have the rule there, I think we're probably going to have to enforce the rule. So I think that they absolutely whiffed on that one. And it probably cost Arizona State the game. It doesn't certainly. They would have the opportunity to go down there and kick that field goal or get in the end zone. But I want to credit Arizona State, a team that I completely discredited for showing up and for fighting for 60 minutes. It was easy for me to look up when we're deep into the third quarter, and you're talking about a game that I felt like Texas was in complete control of because Arizona State couldn't score any points. You could look at the yardstick, and that's fine. Texas ran a punt back, which is going to not allow their offense to have an entire drive to try to go get some points, try to go yards. But in terms of points, like Arizona State couldn't get touchdowns, and they bowed their neck in the fourth quarter and went and got 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions. And that was gritty and gutsy and really everything that Arizona State has been. Do I think they're uber talented? I don't. Do I think they got a bunch of 5-star recruits? I don't. Do I think they have a bunch of first-round picks? I don't. I think that Penn State and Texas and Ohio State and Georgia do have all those things. And that's what I want to see at the highest level of college football. But I understand that in this instance, like Arizona State showed they were game. And Sam Leavitt made some scrappy plays, especially with his legs. Scattaboo did everything he could possibly ask. I was curious if he was sick when he threw up. It says, no, I just drank too much water and it was sloshing around a little bit, was what he said in the postgame. But that's a warrior. That's a guy you want on your team. And I don't think that was news to anybody that's watched any college football this year. But for him to go 30 carries for 143 and 2 scores, complete a 42-yard pass, and have 8 catches for 99 more, I don't know how you could argue with that performance. That's as good as it gets. Texas, the funniest thing for me is that their entire season was coming down to a young man named Bert Auburn with wildly crazy hair, and it looked like he was going to have to move out of Austin forever after those 2 missed kicks. I mean, because you got to think about this. If your name's Bert Austin and you've got that kind of hair and you miss those 2 kicks to potentially...
You say Austin?
Auburn.
There you go. Close.
It's a different college town in the SEC.
It would be really cool if his name was Bert Austin.
It would be. But Bert Auburn, if your name is Bert Auburn and that's your hairstyle, you can't hide in Austin. Like, you're going to be known wherever you go, and you're going to be the guy that missed these 2 kicks that cost Texas a possible national championship. So he's thankful that he got let off the hook. Ewers, to me, I mean, you got everybody on Twitter calling for Arch Manning to go in this game. Everybody's calling for it. And for him to step up and make that throw on 4th down into the back of the end zone was incredible. I mean, that was a great throw. And there's a great picture that I saw on Twitter where he throws that. Now, he can read it, but he throws that ball, not unlike Nussmeier in the Ole Miss game on that 4th down for the touchdown. His wide receiver had not yet crossed the safety's back to get back there. He wasn't wide open yet. When he throws it and you see the camera pan and you see the wide receiver in the end zone, you're like, oh, that's a wide open. That must be a coverage bust. He wasn't that open when Ewers delivered it, and he made that throw decisively and on the money. That's like the most important thing for a quarterback in those moments. You want to make sure everything's perfect because you know if you screw it up that you lose. But the great ones and the guys that make those plays have to know you have to be decisive and go. And he did. The guy was not wide open when he let go, and he threw it right to the spot, and it was a gorgeous throw and catch for the score. I thought that Steve Sarkisian did the right thing, kicking the extra point and not going for 2. I think he had the better football team, and that ended up paying out as Texas gets the touchdown and 2-point conversion in the second overtime, and then Arizona State throws the pick there to close it. But that's what we're looking for in the playoff games. That was awesome to watch. Hand up, I completely discredited Arizona State. They showed they were game. Do I need to see the Big 12 earn a bye into the playoff really ever? No, I think it's a garbage league. But Arizona State played. They were game last night, and they deserved the spotlight and deserved to hold their heads up for a heck of an effort there against Texas. And then you've got the Rose Bowl, which I'll be pretty honest, stunned me. Like, I picked Ohio State to win the game. I thought they would win the game. I thought they were better. We talked ad nauseum in December about how weird I thought it was, how fixated they were on the Michigan game, even though that didn't matter anymore. But for them to come out and just absolutely waylay Oregon, to get up 34 points late in the second quarter, shocked me, because I think Oregon's got a good football team. But it just goes to show that, like, you know, some days you just don't have it. And when you're facing a team like Ohio State that's got that much talent, that is why I'm telling you I don't really need to see Boise State, because I want to see these teams. But I do understand there aren't 12 of those teams. So at times you're going to get Georgia roasting somebody. At times you're going to get Ohio State roasting somebody. That's just the way this sport is. It's not necessarily the NFL, where everyone's kind of on the same level. There are a lot of levels in college football, and some are very far apart. Oregon, I believe, is on Ohio State's level to a degree, and they showed that because they beat them earlier this year. The game was at Allison, you understand that. But I gave that great Bill Connolly S&P stat before the game when we were breaking it down on, I guess that was Monday. I think it was Monday. Oregon had a lot of things go right in that game in Austin, and they won it by a hair. And obviously everything went wrong in this one, but Ohio State is the best team in the country when they're playing well. But we have seen them at times not play well. So we'll see what we get. I don't believe that Will Howard is the same skill set as some of the great quarterbacks we've seen over the last 5 or 8 years. And I think those guys are what separates those phenomenal teams. I think he's really good, and I think the guys he's throwing it to and handing it to are sensational. I mean, you realize that Travion Henderson is a great player. They add Quinshon Judkins, who may have been the best back in the SEC. That's a heck of a 1-2 punch. Those two guys ran for about 180 yards in the game. Jeremiah Smith is an absolute freak. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know what college DBs are supposed to do for the next 2 years, dealing with that size, that body control, that catch radius. He's just a freak. That's what the 5 stars do. They're just that good. You're seeing it at Alabama, and you're obviously seeing it with him, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. But I was surprised that Oregon was just completely outclassed from the start. And I got a text from the group text like, hey, I don't know if Phil Knight's going to be able to make it through this one. That's got to be pretty disheartening for him, who's sunk a bunch of money into this and really wants one more thing before he goes. And he's getting up there pushing 90 at this point. And he thought you got an undefeated team. It's already beaten Ohio State. It's already won the Big Ten. It's beaten Penn State. You've shown you can play with the big boys that are still left. And to go out to the Rose Bowl and just get absolutely annihilated is got to be really disheartening for everybody there in green and gold. But Ohio State's going to be a force, and we'll see what they can do against the Longhorns in Dallas coming up next week. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, there's always opportunity. Well, I want to take every opportunity we have to make fun of Alabama, right? Well, we have an opportunity because they lost to a Michigan team that didn't have any players. And there's some funny stuff that we need to get to. So we'll do that to close out hour number 1 in a pretty lighthearted way coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, always want to remind you to download that Rouse's app. Makes your grocery shopping so easy. I know a lot of folks trying to eat a little cleaner in the new year. Rouse's can help you do all of that. Download the Rouse's app. Get your grocery shopping done there. If you don't have time to go in the store, you can get your personal shopper to do it. Just pull up to that window. They will pull it right next to the front door. They will put it in your back of your truck, and you can head on down the road. Rouse's, awesome partner of ours here with Guarantee Media. Official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, always a great chance to make fun of Alabama when we can. Matt does a little bit better job than I do on a day-to-day basis. However, I get a kick out of when they lose, heading over to see some of the post-game reaction, both on Twitter and on the internet, wherever I may. And one of the places that I generally go is Locked On Bama. I think that Luke Robinson and Jimmy Stein are entertaining to me when they lose. Luke Robinson's the voice you're going to hear here in a second after Alabama lost to Michigan, who one was a 7-win team this year, and two had half its defense opt out, and Alabama still couldn't get anything done because Jalen Milroe turned the ball over 3 times in the first half. So you're going to hear the voice here of Luke Robinson from Locked On Alabama, and I got a chuckle out of it. I think you probably will as well, because as you might imagine, they're not taking it very well. Luke Robinson has twice this year said that it was the worst loss in Alabama history. He said that after the Vanderbilt game. He also said it after the Oklahoma game. So here's the voice of Luke Robinson from Locked On Bama after Alabama lost to a terrible Michigan team with half its players out in the bowl game.
Him. This episode is brought to you by depression. Thank you, every day for joining us. Thank you guys for being live with us right now. Every time I think things can't get worse, they get worse. And Milroe's going to catch a lot of heat, and he should. He played terrible. God, he played bad. He looked like a guy who doesn't want to be drafted unless it's by the military or something. He played like that the last 4 or 5 games. DeBoer, I don't know where to start there. He's on the hot seat if you ask me. That was such a poor coaching effort. Nick Sheridan, I'm fine. Let's just get rid of him.
He's got DeBoer on the hot seat. Milroe's going to the military, apparently. And that's where he thinks about that. This was so predictable. It was so predictable. The guy who took over for Nick had no freaking chance. You can sit here and say that, the transfer portal makes things more difficult. The fact of the matter is that standard is not sustainable. In my lifetime, which is pushing 40 years, you've seen Bobby Bowden at Florida State essentially sustain excellence. They were a top 5 team for 15 straight years. You've seen Nick Saban build a dynasty. You've seen Urban Meyer over 2 stops produce great teams, although he did have a couple of clunkers, one for sure at Florida. You've seen Kirby Smart go on a heck of a run here, but that's kind of it. Like, that's Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll did it too. But nobody else has been awesome every single year. And the guy that took over for Nick was never going to be awesome every single year. You can say it's a cushy landing spot and Nick had set the runway up. He's the best ever. And what Alabama fans were never going to truly understand until he left was that it wasn't the Crimson A, it wasn't Bryant-Denny Stadium, it wasn't Denny Chimes or the $1 Million Band or Big Al or the fans or the state. It wasn't any of that made Alabama the preeminent football program. It was one guy, and he's gone. So they got to play with the rest of us now. And this stuff makes me laugh when I hear him say twice it was the worst loss in Alabama history. When I hear him say after one 9-win season that he's on the hot seat, this is their new reality that they just aren't going to be able to cope with. And I think it's hilarious. Now, I'm not suggesting here that in some way, shape, or form LSU's in much better shape. That's never been the issue. I know how good LSU is. LSU usually wins 9 games or so, and every 4th or 5th year, they're really good. LSU recruits at a top 5 or 6 level. They put a ton of guys in the NFL, and they usually win 9 or 10 games. But Bama thinks that winning 9 or 10 games is fire the coach. And that's what they're going to have to work through because tough league. You don't have the guy anymore. And maybe it's some sort of sick thing that's in my brain that makes me want to go seek this stuff out when teams lose. I certainly head over to Texags when the Aggies lose. I run to Trey Biddy's walk and talk when the Hogs lose. Locked on Bama when Alabama loses. I'll hit Go Vols 247 when Tennessee loses. That's probably not an effective use of my time. It's probably kind of a sick, twisted thing that I do. I don't strongly advocate
it kind
that you
of
do.
is.
Yes, it is. I'm aware. At least I'm self-aware
You are.
about the situation.
That's good.
But that's funny to me. When they lose a meaningless, stupid bowl game to a bad Michigan team and he tells me the coach has to be fired. I think that's hilarious. When they lose to Oklahoma and he tells me it's the worst loss in the history of Alabama football and they've been playing football for 130 years, I think that's funny. So it's cheap entertainment for me. And guess what? Matt and T-Bob's views spike on whiskey and wine when LSU loses. I know Scott Kushner, who's on Twitter and covers the Pels and comes on with us every once in a while, he goes whenever LSU loses. I know the folks over at A&M go there when LSU loses. I know that Ryan Fowler from Tuscaloosa goes there when LSU loses. It's kind of something that I think those of us in the internet world kind of relish a little bit because misery loves a little bit of company. And I can promise you there's a lot of misery in Tuscaloosa right about now. And I'm very, very curious to see what the offseason narrative is for Alabama. But I thought that was a lighthearted, fun way to end the hour here. So that's where we'll leave it. We got a ton to do in hour number 2. I want to talk about the Sugar Bowl a little bit. I want to talk about LSU with Chris Blair, both basketball and football. We've still got some things to talk about with the bowl game. But I do have some predictions, 5 of them, for LSU athletics in 2025. Let's get to some of those after SportsCenter to kick off hour number 2 of a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Generac home standby generators from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been running it for 40 years, and they've just been helping South Louisiana with peace of mind. To know that you're not going to lose power when the rest of the folks around you lose power. It's South Louisiana. We got hurricanes. We've got ice storms. We got bad drivers. We got summer thunderstorms that roll through. And losing power is, at best, a nuisance. At worst, a massive inconvenience that forces you to leave. Well, you can mitigate that with the peace of mind of a Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Give them a call at 985-397-1562. Again, that's 985-397-1562. Or the new location in Gonzales, 225-300-9389. 225-300-9389. Make that call and get that generator installed early in 2025. Check them out online at boudreauxelectrical.com, boudreauxelectrical.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. For From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. With increased security after a New Year's Day attack in New Orleans, the college football playoff quarterfinals wrap up today at the All-State Sugar Bowl. Georgia and Notre Dame, who've played only 3 times with the Bulldogs winning all 3. Our coverage starts at 3:30 Eastern here on ESPN Radio. The game also on ESPN and the app. Ohio State has outscored its first 2 playoff opponents 83-38. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky.
The Michigan loss was the best thing that happened to Ryan Day in Ohio State. And you got to give Ryan Day endless credit. The refocusing, the regrouping, the resetting. It's also the reason why it was so noisy after the loss. Because you're sitting there going, wait, this team got beaten by Michigan like that?
Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. ESPN's Shams Charania reports Pistons guard Jaden Ivey has a broken left leg. He'll be out at least most of the rest of the regular season after getting hurt last night against the Magic. Ivey is having a breakout year, averaging almost 18 points a game.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Another short work week. This is just a blur of 2 weeks. I've been in the workforce now for how long? 14 years. I'm still not any better at figuring out like what day it is or what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't. It's not good over the last, especially when those 2 holidays fall like right in the middle of the week on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It just becomes an absolute blur. But we're here on a Thursday, working towards the weekend. We'll be here tomorrow as well, and then off for a couple more days, and then we'll kind of get into the flow of the new year. At LouisianaSports.net, speaking of the new year, I wrote a piece with 5 predictions for LSU athletics in 2025. Gave it a little bit of thought, wrote it this morning. Wanted to kind of dive in. Beck, I'll get your thoughts on some of these. Starts on the baseball side of things, as you might imagine. I suggested that I thought that Jared Jones would climb to number 3 on LSU's all-time home run list. He hit 14 home runs as a freshman on the national championship team. He hit 28 last year. He doubled that up. So he's got 41, which puts him just outside the top 10. To get to 3rd on the all-time list, he needs to hit 18 more this year. For a guy that hit 28, to hit 18 this year seems like it would be a relatively easy thing to do. However, you are taking Tommy White away from him protection-wise, and he'll be the big bat that people fear. So I think he's going to hit at least 18. If he does that, he will pass these names on the LSU all-time list: Gavin Dugas, Blair Barbier, Albert Joey Bell, Ryan Patterson, Todd Walker, Blake Dean, Dylan Cruz, and Trey McClure. That's a lot of dudes that won a lot of national championships and hit a lot of home runs in Baton Rouge. He will fall short of Brad Cressy and Eddie Furness. Those are 4-year guys. He would have to play a 4th year to even sniff those guys. But if he can hit 18, he'll move into 3rd. I feel pretty good about his chances there, Beck.
Yeah, it seems reasonable to me. I mean, like you said, though, losing Tommy White will be interesting to see how teams are going to choose to pitch to him. So that may, as you said, may limit him. But 18 seems pretty reasonable. Obviously barring injury, but yeah, that seems about right for me.
I would take that. That'd be a good start. Here we go. Number 2, the SEC in men's basketball right now is going to get 12 teams into the NCAA tournament, and LSU will be the last one in. I project LSU right now, as kind of a prediction here, to go to Dayton. That's going to require 7 or 8 league wins. I got to say my confidence level in Jaron Jones hitting 18 home runs is pretty high. I would give that like a 70, 80% chance of happening. My confidence level in LSU making the NCAA tournament is probably closer to 50 or 45%. Like, I'm not convicted in this. I'm concerned about the talent level in this league, the coaches in this league, and where LSU is from a talent standpoint, rebounding standpoint, post-scoring standpoint. Like, there are just some concerns I have. However, I'm going to rest on Matt McMahon's ability to coach, because I think last year he showed he could really coach. That was not a great LSU team. They did not have great point guard play. They didn't necessarily have a true scoring post. You had Will Baker, who shot a little bit and scored some. You had Jalen Reed, who had his games here or there, but it wasn't like you had some kind of force you had to double down there. And they still won 9 games in a good league. So I think that, to me, suggests he's got a chance. They're going to have to win some close games late to get there, but I'm giving projections. I'm trying to be on the positive end here, not trying to start the year off with a total negative slant on anything. So I will suggest that the SEC gets a ton of respect on Selection Sunday. They get 12 teams in the field, and LSU's right there at the end at either 7-11 or 8-10 in league play. Do we feel good about that?
I do. I mean, just think about it. SEC already has 10 teams in the top 25. So
yes.
You would have to believe that at this point there's going to be at least 10 for sure that are going to get in.
10 got in last year in a 16-team league,
right.
And Oklahoma and Texas, one of them was in, one of them was one of the first 4 out. Like, there's room.
There is, yeah. So I think it's very. I would agree. I think 12 will get in, and I think LSU will be. I'm still a little bit higher. I mean, the Jalen Reed injury, I think, is going to be.
That's bad.
That's the one we're going to look back on. If they don't make the tournament, that's one you're going to really look back on and say, man, if it weren't for him going down.
He was the 3rd most important guy.
Yeah. So that makes it a lot harder, but I think they can still get to 7 or 8, and if they do, I think they're in too.
We shall see. That'll all start up on Saturday. I'm excited tomorrow to talk about that game with LSU and Vanderbilt in the PMAC. Just a side note, I'm just going to be a hopeless homer here and shill for the program. If you're in Baton Rouge or in South Louisiana, Lafayette included, New Orleans included, Hammond included, and you're looking for something to do this weekend, get to the PMAC on Saturday afternoon. This is a huge game for LSU against Vanderbilt. It's very winnable. I think LSU will be favored in the game. Vanderbilt's got a first-year head coach. They played very well. They've only got 1 loss to this point. But LSU needs to win this game, and as good an environment as they can make in the PMAC on Saturday would be a big, big deal. So if you're driving around and hadn't given any thought to maybe going to the basketball game, not going to break the bank to get you in the PMAC on a Saturday. And if you can come in from out of town, the game time's a good one. It's right there mid-afternoon. So just a plea from me, LSU guy, to get that PMAC as rowdy as possible coming up on Saturday. All right, we'll move to football with number 3 here. I think LSU is going to have the number 1 passing offense in the SEC in 2025. As I wrote on LouisianaSports.net, I thought it was unlikely as of 3 weeks ago that LSU would be that potent offensively. I think the Texas Bowl a little bit changed my mind when I saw Garrett Nussmeier do it without that offensive line and with a lesser supply of weapons on the outside. You saw what Chris Hilton could do. He's back. You know what Aaron Anderson can do. And now you add that to Berrien Brown and, of course, Nick Anderson coming in. We saw what Trey'Dez Green could do. I'm starting to feel really good about where LSU is from a passing standpoint in 2025. You look at the number 1 passing offense in the league this past year, Ole Miss. They lose Jackson Dart. They lose Trey Harris. We'll see what they are, but I think LSU's got a real chance to be better than them there. Georgia finished behind LSU at 3rd, 30 yards per game behind LSU, and Carson Beck is obviously moving on. You can look at DJ Lagway, look at Arch Manning, whatever Ole Miss does, and there will be threats to LSU as far as passing goes, maybe Lenore Sellers, who knows. But I think Garrett Nussmeier and LSU lead the SEC in passing in 2025. I once again think that'll be kind of the foundation of the offense. They got to run it better. We know that. But I think that LSU's passing game is going to be really, really good next year.
I think they will be too. Yeah, with no Dart coming back, that kind of eliminates Ole Miss, I think. But
I mean, he's generally kind of churned out quarterbacks whatever he needs to.
Yeah, no matter who it is, really, he's been able to get guys to be productive. But man, this makes a lot of sense. I really am worried about the offensive line, and it's there's just no way that they're going to. There's no way that in my opinion, I don't think there's any way that they will be as good of a pass blocking unit as they were this year. They were really good. They will not be as good this year. And there's no, the Nick Anderson, I think he was actually the guy I chose as who I think would have the biggest impact as a transfer for LSU, because he was really good a couple years ago. I think he's going to be good, but leading the SEC in passing, I'm actually a little questionable in this one. I think it's reasonable, but I would probably have to go with no on this one.
Okay.
But it's certainly very possible.
I hope so. I like watching them throw the ball around a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. As far as the offensive line goes, they can get one more tackle. You got 2 tackles that you brought in. You got a center you can plug in. Braylon Moore, who started a couple of years. They feel really good about the way that Cohen Eccles is progressing at guard. Paul Mabenga has started now 5 or 6 games at guard. Weston Davis is a guy they feel okay about, and so you've got some talent, and then you may be able to move DJ Chester to a guard spot, and he's proven that he can play at this level. So they got options at offensive line. Brad Davis will have to work that out. All right, number 4 in my 5 predictions for 2025 for LSU. Kim Mulkey's LSU team for this year will reach the Final Four. As I wrote at LouisianaSports.net, I'm not ready to call for a national championship with this team. I think they're limited a little bit outside of Morrow in the front court. I do like their guard play for sure. You've got to love Flau'jae and Michaela, but I don't know that I'm ready to say they're going to win a championship. But I do think that their guards are good, and that Kim Mulkey will have this team playing elite defense by the time March comes around. That's just kind of what she has done in her career. So there's no Caitlin Clark out there, even though there's really good players. Becker's at UConn, and obviously USC and South Carolina have great players, and UCLA is ranked first. But LSU hasn't lost yet. I think they're going to get their feet under them in SEC play, and they're in one of these positions where, and Kim wouldn't say this, but I can say it as someone who watches from afar. Like, what they do over the next 8 weeks is not that important. They're going to get a top 4 seed. They might be a 1 seed. They might be a 4 seed. They're at a point in that sport where their program is that really the season is defined by what you do over those 3 weeks in March. It doesn't matter if they lose on a Sunday. It doesn't matter if they lose on a Wednesday here or there. They're going to win a lot of league games. They're going to get in the SEC tournament. They'll play some games there. They'll get their seed, and that's when they've got to be ready to go. And Kim's made a career out of having her teams ready to go. I think she will. I don't think they're a national championship team, but I think they've got a real chance to make the Final Four, so I'll call for that. What you got on that?
Yeah, so I actually disagree. I do think they can make the Final Four, but I disagree in the fact that I think that this actually, what happens in the next few months actually does matter a lot, because LSU will really, if they can get a 1 seed, I think they will absolutely make the Final Four. The problem is, though, if they end up in the same quadrant as UCLA or South Carolina, then they're going to have to go through them to get to the Final Four, and that will be extremely challenging. UCLA is clearly the best team in the country. If no one noticed, they beat South Carolina early in the season by 14 or I think 15 points, and so they are extremely good. And so if they
can get a 1 seed, I don't know they're going to get a 1 seed, and that's where I start to go. Well, if you're 2, 3, or 4, do I really care?
Yes,
yeah.
but if they do end up in the same quadrant as UCLA or South Carolina, I don't think they can beat either of those teams. But we'll see. But I think they can be a Final Four. But yeah, I actually do think it matters though what happens.
We'll see. I got them in the Final Four, and the last one doesn't have to do with one of the teams that's on the field or the court this coming calendar year. It goes on the stadium. And that's Glenn Dorsey's number 72. I do not have any inside sources on this, don't have any information that would suggest this is imminent in any way or that it'll ever happen, but it should. Glenn Dorsey's number 72 should be up there with Casanova, should be up there with Cannon, should be up there with Stovall. And he did everything you can do as a defensive tackle at LSU. He won the Outland Award for the best interior lineman in the country. He won the Nagurski for the best defensive player in the country. He won the Lombardi Award for his character and representing everything that Vince Lombardi did. He was a unanimous All-American first team, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He was on a national championship team in 2007. He's absolutely in the same breath as Stovall and Casanova. And I understand that Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels will have their day, and they absolutely should have their day. So should Glenn Dorsey. So my suggestion and my prediction for 2025 is that Glenn Dorsey's number 72 will be retired by LSU. Again, no information that would suggest that is imminent in any way, but it should be because he did everything you could do. And I think that it deserves, I mean, you can't, and it's different sports, but like Rudy Macklin, Shaquille O'Neal, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Eddie Furness, Ben McDonald, like Glenn Dorsey is every bit as accomplished as all those guys. His number should be up there.
Yeah, I agree as well. I do wonder about just LSU has especially with football has just been so very slow with how they've managed this.
They have very much so.
And so I would have to say no. I don't think it happens this year. It will happen, but again, if I had to take, let's say I had to place a bet on either this year or some year after that, I'm placing my bet on any year after this one because it's just a lot of time has already passed, but it still feels like it's just maybe a little too early. So I'll have to go no on that one. But
it's aggressive. It's the most aggressive call on this list. Yeah. But I felt like there needed to be a little something to pack a punch at the end of the story. So we went with that. If you want to read about some of the statistics I put behind that, you can do so at LouisianaSports.net. Jalen Milroe just declared for the NFL draft. So there's some news for you here on the Twitterverse on this Thursday. We'll step aside, come back with Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It's a new year. Looking for an upgrade to your home? You don't have to move to make that happen. Brand new bathroom, brand new closet, customized to your exact specifications. You make one call. That's to One Bath and Closets. David Duvall, again, has been at this for 3 decades. He knows what he's doing. And if you're concerned about payment here, they can handle financing for you. If you qualify, 18 months, 0%. That's a pretty good deal to get a brand new bathroom or a brand new closet, but it doesn't have to be a big project. They do tub to shower conversions as well. If you never sit down and take a bath in that tub and you'd rather have a gorgeous walk-in shower, David Duvall and his team, happy to help you with it. Check him out online. There's pictures of his great work, and you can request that free consultation right there on the homepage. It's One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Chugging along here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Sugar Bowl coming up in 40 minutes from the Dome down there in New Orleans, Georgia, and Notre Dame in this one. I'm fascinated at how this game shakes out. I realize that Carson Beck's not going to play. He's not going to play for the rest of the season, already declared for the NFL draft. And I think that limits LSU. But Gunnar Stockton is a highly thought of recruit. He's a guy that's got some talent. He just hasn't played. And I broke this game down before we knew it was going to get postponed, and we thought that the show that we did on Monday was the last one before we watched this game. And I realized that Gunnar Stockton has really only come in garbage time and then the SEC championship game. He hasn't played a ton of meaningful snaps. So you wouldn't expect that he would come in and chuck it all over the yard when he comes in garbage time. You're beating whatever MAC team shows up in Athens 56-10, and you're not going to come in there and have him throwing a bunch of 35-yard corner routes. I get it, but he hasn't really done it at all. The longest pass he's completed through in terms of air yards in college is less than 15 yards. So he has not been asked to stretch the field, and Georgia doesn't have a lot of wide receivers that can stretch the field. They just aren't as talented on the perimeter as they have been. And that is the biggest concern in this game for Georgia. I think they'll be fine stepping up against a physical running game from Notre Dame. I don't expect Riley Leonard to go nuts. He hasn't done that all year for Notre Dame. So I feel like Georgia matches up okay there, and I feel like Georgia should be able to run the ball a little bit, but they don't have a threat on Marcus Freeman's defense to push the ball down the field. And that creates that phone booth, and Notre Dame's pretty big and physical, and that makes me feel like points could be hard to come by for Georgia in bunches. And I don't expect them to come in bunches for Notre Dame, but I think that that's a more realistic scenario with a veteran quarterback. It's not like Georgia's defense has been as dominant this year as they have been in past years. What I've kind of stuck to is you don't want to catch Georgia with all of their focus. And we found that out, with Texas this year in Austin, Texas this year in the Georgia Dome. But Alabama got Georgia's full focus, and Alabama took it to them in the first half of that game. Now, Georgia came roaring back, but that was with Carson Beck. This is just not that good a Georgia team that they've had the last 3 years. So to me, as I look at this, I think this is going to be a game that goes under, and I think this is a game that's going to be pretty close. It's just a matter of who makes plays. And I kind of feel like I like Riley Leonard more than I like Gunnar Stockton in that spot because Leonard has played a ton of college football. Now, I feel like in this segment, as I do it, and I'm hearing myself talk, I feel like I'm listening to the show that I did when TCU and Georgia played, outside of the part where Georgia's not as good. But I was talking myself into, got a quarterback that's played pretty well, did a pretty good job against Michigan there, won the game. I think TCU can kind of hang in there. And then Georgia showed up and just whitewashed them. I'm trying to guard against that while giving you my actual thoughts on the game. And so as I boil the thing down and I kind of look at it from 50,000 feet, I think that it's going to be close. It's going to be kind of ugly. I think it's going to be conservative because Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame have been conservative by nature this year, and Georgia may be forced into that with a backup quarterback. But I also think about in that building the game plan that Nick Saban devised in January of 2012 against LSU, where he gave the ball to A.J. McCarron and said, chuck it. Like, we got Trent Richardson, and that's great, but we can't really run against Michael Brockers and Benny Logan and Sam Montgomery and Kiki Mingo and Kevin Minner and Eric Reed and Brandon Taylor, Ryan Baker. Like, we can't really run the ball on these guys consistently like we can on everybody else, so we're going to have to throw it a little bit. And they did. And I wonder if Kirby Smart hadn't sat back in his office in Athens chatting with his offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, and said, hey, like, we probably need to be a little bit more aggressive than people think we're going to be with Gunner. That's a possibility. He's seen it work before, but A.J. McCarron had a year of starting under his belt. Gunner Stockton has none. I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win the game. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can tell you if Carson Beck was playing, I unequivocally would pick Georgia with no hesitation. The backup quarterback thing, I think, matters. And I think in this game that it's going to be tough for Georgia to score 28 points. Notre Dame's defense is good. It's veteran. They got a good coach. I just don't think that Georgia's got the playmakers to hurt them bad enough over the top. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win the game after giving it some thought. I feel bad about it. I'd rather Georgia win the game because they don't really like Notre Dame, but that's kind of where I'm sitting as this game gets set to kick off in 35 minutes from right now. Beck, is that a bad pick, me taking the Irish?
It's not a bad pick. I do think that most will consider Georgia to not have a chance in the national championship because of losing Carson Beck, and I agree, but I do think they can beat Notre Dame. But no, it's not a bad pick. I would probably still lean Georgia in this game because I think Georgia probably has better talent than Notre Dame, but it's not a it's certainly not this should be the most competitive game. I mean, it's
going to be tough to be more competitive than Texas.
It will be.
Arizona State.
Yeah, it will be. But I think on paper, everyone thought this would be the most competitive. I suppose, obviously, right there with Ohio State and Georgia, or Ohio State and Oregon, which wasn't.
No.
But yeah, I could see both ways. I would probably still pick Georgia, but Notre Dame is got a chance for sure without Beck playing.
If there's anybody that's listening to us like at work in the Central Business District in New Orleans or somewhere around the area, I just pulled up my my app to see what ticket prices were. You can get into this game for $37. So that's not surprising. I've just kind of been monitoring it. I knew that there was no chance I was going to go, even if it was last night, because I've got work and I don't want to drive down there and come back at midnight. But just kind of checking out because it's a great matchup. It's brands. Massive national fan base for Notre Dame, and then Georgia. You can drive it if you want for 8 hours, or you can hop a quick Atlanta to New Orleans flight, which there are tons of. So it's very accessible for everybody. I figured it would be a tough ticket, and tickets before the terrorist attack. So if you're looking back, on midday New Year's Eve, the seats up in the 600 level were going for like $185 or so. If you try to get down to the loge or the terrace all the way down, you'd be looking at closer to like $400 or $500. Now, under $40 if you're in the area and want to jump in there and go see. I'm curious, like, how many fans had to fly home today, because like changing a flight is not that easy, especially when you factor in finances and whatnot. And I'm sure a lot of people had flights out at 11 o'clock this morning, 10 o'clock this morning, 8 o'clock this morning. So I'm curious what kind of environment it is in the Dome. Those certainly that drove from Atlanta or Georgia are able to hang out for an extra day, but we'll see. I'm curious to see how this one goes. I'll stick to my word. I'll take the Irish and see how it plays out in the Dome. All right, let's come back, talk a little more LSU, specifically the Texas Bowl, and moving forward into 2025. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis.com. Your buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is going to be luxury in every way. You're going to feel like a guest there at the dealership. You're not going to feel like a customer. It's a first-class facility. The ambiance in there is phenomenal, and the staff is first-rate from bottom up. The brand ambassadors are so helpful. They'll get you behind the wheel of that Genesis and get you through all the features that they have. Every single vehicle in their line starts with the same safety features, and all of them have received the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. If you don't want to go to the dealership, you don't love dealership shopping, the brand ambassadors will drive to you. They'll get in that Genesis car. They'll come to you at the office. They'll come to you at the house. They'll take you on the test drive there. And if you want, you never have to set foot on the dealership lot to buy a Genesis. They've got e-contracts. They can do digital delivery. And they can come to you for the test drive, as I said. It's all part of being a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. It's the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. Airline and Pico near Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, chugging along here. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home. LSU beats Baylor 44-31. If you missed at the top of the show, I went over kind of my big picture thoughts on the bowl game, and it really centered around Garrett Nussmeier's ability to take a patchwork offense and really churn it efficiently. And that's my biggest positive moving into 2025, and I don't think that's even close. I think LSU will be a top 10 team in the preseason because of Garrett Nussmeier and this transfer portal class. How they fare once they get there is to be determined, and certainly you start with a really, really difficult one there at Clemson, but that was my biggest takeaway in this game. Certainly LSU defensively was not great in this game. Baylor threw for way too many yards. He gave up 507 total yards, and most of that was through the air, 445 of it. Did a good job against the run, only 62 rushing yards for Baylor in the net, but 445 through the air is a little bit disheartening. And when you look at Sawyer Robertson, he had a good back end of his year. Josh Cameron's a really good player. He had 8 catches for 111 yards, and I thought did a nice job. But LSU just did not cover very well. And it was, look, they threw it 51 times, so it's tough to cover all 51 times. And I said this on the postgame show on the network. This is not intended to be picking on Ashton Stamps. Actually, contrary, but like Ashton Stamps broke up 3 passes in the game, but he got beat some. Like he went on a double move for a sluggo that he got beat on down to the one. The next play was the one where Weeks got injured. You just aren't as good on the corners as you need to be. And it wasn't even Zy Alexander's best game, quite frankly. At safety, you had your issues all year. Deshaun Spears got a lot of snaps in this game. Javian Toviano played a ton as well. This is a position group, in my opinion, that needs this influx of talent that's coming in. Jakeem Jackson coming in, Mansour Delane coming in, DJ Pickett coming in. I'm confident they're going to upgrade at safety as well and bring in some talent to compete. So that's the part that's got to get cleaned up. You have a lot of returning talent at defensive tackle. Jacobian Guillory is back. Don McKinley is back. Ahmad Bro is back. Like you bring in the Texas transfer at defensive tackle. You've got guys there at the edge. Relaford has shown some flashes. You're bringing in some Power 5 starters in Jamari Butler and Jack Pyburn and Patrick. It's a double P, and I can't think of it. The Florida State kid. Patrick's one of the names. I can't think if it's the first or the last. Doesn't matter. Those guys are all coming in as transfers for you. That should help. Your linebacking core looks phenomenal. You've got, hopefully, Whit Weeks is just fine, and it's just a dislocation, and he's back in action and can take the spring off and then be ready to go for summer conditioning. West Weeks comes back as well. Devon Keys had the pick 6 in this game and played pretty well in the last couple of games.
Patrick Payton, there
it is. I didn't know if it was something. Peyton Patrick, whatever. It's Florida State, a lot of sacks. He's coming in. You've got guys at linebacker as well with Harold Perkins returning. So it's really the secondary that needs to be shored up, and then you probably have to help out at tight end as well. But the secondary's got to be shored up, and the cavalry, it feels like it's coming with Corey Raymond, but that's got to be the case. And it's just, that was a disheartening thing in this game, is that you weren't good enough in the secondary to cover Baylor's wide receivers, and to allow that many yards, especially late in the game, was disappointing. The other kind of disappointing thing, that you would look at the special teams, you go, oh, you ran a kickback for a touchdown. That's awesome. That's great special teams. And that was awesome. That was great special teams. I loved every second of it. Fantastic stuff. However, you shanked a punt. You got a new punter coming in. You had a field goal blocked, which has happened a little bit too much in the last 3 years, for being honest. And you, what was the third one? You shanked a punt.
Well, they had the block was on the snap, skidded on the ground.
Right.
And then that was the reason why the hold was late, and then it got blocked.
Right.
Well, what was that, a different one? I can't remember.
No, the snap was fine. The hold was okay. They busted in the middle.
Yeah.
The Baylor kid
and
came through.
Yeah, and there was the one snap
and then Aaron Burrell kicked it out of bounds to start the second half.
Yeah.
So those three just like massive gaffes. A blocked field goal, kicking a kickoff out of bounds, and then shanking a punt. Those three things you could be playing the Kansas City Chiefs or U-High, and all of that is completely unforced. And like, I don't even think that in fact, I know that's not coaching. That's just players not getting the job done.
You had plenty of problems all year with the hold, snapping, like long snapping,
and some
holding,
of that,
field goals. Like
it
was a problem all year.
Yeah, but and like, it's one of those deals where you go back to like 2 years ago when it was just an absolute disaster on special teams. And I would suggest, although Brian Polian got a ton of flack for it, and deserves some, like when your unit's that bad, like the coach does deserve flack, but I kind of pushed back and was like, I really don't think it's the fault of the special teams coach when Malik Neighbors drops 2 punts. I don't think it's the special teams coach's fault when Jack Besh drops the opening kickoff. I don't think it's the special teams coach's fault when the guy you're offsides on a kickoff. Like that's just elementary stuff the players have got to do. And like I realize that everybody wants to just dump on Brian Polian for all that stuff, but to me it's like some of that stuff the players just got to handle. And like that, some of that stuff we saw on Tuesday night, the players have got to handle that. I thought some of the special team stuff was a little sloppy as well. But I think to bring my entire point back full circle, like you had a makeshift offensive line, not your best weapons at wide receiver. Defensively, you didn't cover very well. You gave up 450 yards passing. Your special teams had some gaffes outside of the one huge play that you did make on special teams. And all that just didn't seem to matter. LSU was never, in my opinion, in doubt of losing this game, of winning this game, because Garrett Nussmeier did such a good job. And that, to me, is going to kind of be where I hang my hat from now until Labor Day. Like, I just feel like he's a guy. And I'm curious, and we'll see kind of how this narrative progresses, and we'll probably know more come July and certainly into August, how LSU fans feel about having 13 under center. But I'm really struggling with those who don't feel good about it. Like, you really have to harp on the interceptions and the couple of strips that he had and his lack of mobility. Those are the things you're going to have to really harp on. Because if you're going to look at the productivity of the offense and you're going to look at the passing yardage, which he went over 4,000 yards, and it's the second greatest passing season in LSU football history, like trying to jump over that and hurdle around to the one interception he threw in this game, or to just harp completely on the third and fourth quarters in College Station, that seems like it's a little bit, should I use the word biased? I don't know. I just don't agree. I think that's where I'll put it. I'm trying to be literal with my speech. I don't think that's biased. I just don't agree. I think you've now got, coming into 2025, a fifth-year senior quarterback with a year of starting under his belt who threw for 4,000 yards, second in the SEC, and took a makeshift team that wasn't playing great on defense or special teams and won the Texas Bowl by 2 scores. I feel really good about that as an LSU fan, and if you are, I feel like you should as well, especially understanding what's coming in at wide receiver, what they could potentially develop at the offensive line, and how I think that they're going to be really talented at running back as well next year. I think LSU is going to be a heck of a team offensively, and that was really on display, I think, even more so on Tuesday, considering the shortcomings the other two phases had throughout the course of the game. So that's my thoughts on the Texas Bowl. I guess we'll kind of leave that there. If you're looking for LSU football content, even though the season is over, hunt on LSU, whether that's on YouTube or in podcast form, all LSU football all year round. So if that's your jam and you don't care about LSU and Vanderbilt and basketball and you're not that fired up for baseball season that's coming up, you're just football, hunt on LSU is all football all year round. So go ahead and check that out each and every day if you would. We'll step aside. We'll take a timeout. We will come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and that'll wrap us up here on a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is that website. Check them out on Instagram. AVSS_BR. There's some really cool stuff that they've been working on over the last few months, and they do a great job of uploading a lot of those projects to Instagram. If you have an outdoor area that you really like, whether it's a pool, whether it's an outdoor kitchen area, and you feel like in the spring, that's when things really start to ramp up and you spend a lot more time outside, and you'd like to have some electronics hooked up out there, whether it's a television, whether it's some surround sound, they can handle it at Audio Video Security Solutions. They certainly have at my house on our back porch. I turn on music and podcasts and our station all the time back there when Myers is running around knocking balls off the tee and sliding down the slides, and I'm playing dad. So if you want your outdoor area to be all souped up for the springtime, Audio Video Security Solutions needs to be your phone call. When you make the phone call, you're going to be making it to Mitchell Fisher, the owner of the company's cell phone. 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions online at avssla.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet. The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
The Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling is underway. Make sure to check your leaderboard and your inbox to see if you qualify for the final round of picks and your shot at $1,000 in cash and $200 from Hooters. Our grand prize winner will be notified January 13th. It's the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling at 1045ESPN.com. And the College Football Playoff National Championship runs through the playoffs this season. Tune in for the quarterfinal matchup with Notre Dame and Georgia. That is just going to be in 13 minutes here on your home for the College Football Playoff National Championship, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, winding things down here. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We are presented by Rouse's. Fired up for tomorrow's show. We'll kind of put a bow on LSU season with Preston Guy, our weekly Friday conversation. Certainly get you ready for LSU and Vanderbilt from the PMAC on Saturday. LSU, the Saints will wrap up their season with the Bucs, and I honestly think the Saints conversation becomes significantly more interesting starting on Monday.
Yeah, because we don't have to talk about a meaningless game anymore.
Yeah.
Talk about what's going to be the next 5 years or 10, whoever knows, however long you want to look for.
Really don't know. I think the odds are probably 3 and he gets fired, but that has nothing to do with the Saints. That's just the NFL. If it was the Steelers making that hire, I'd probably say differently. But everybody else seems to struggle with quarterbacks and coaches. And so the Saints have a momentous decision that's coming, and it's certainly not going to come on Monday, but it's going to come in the coming weeks. And I think that becomes a fascinating storyline because, I want the Saints to get good again. I want them to be interesting. I want another team in this market that we're talking about to be fascinating. And to be quite frank, the last 8 weeks, not real fascinating. Just a bunch of hypotheticals and questions that were looming for months ahead. The Saints discussion that is interesting is, who do you hire to be your head coach? What does he do with his staff? Okay, now it's draft time. How many of those picks do you use? What's Derek Carr's contract situation look like? Do they bring Chase Young back? Like there are a lot of things to dive into with the Saints that don't have to do with how well they rushed Baker Mayfield on Sunday. And that's kind of what we've been lulled into over the last 8 weeks here. And I'm ready to start diving into some more substantive conversations that revolve around the black and gold. We'll certainly react to the Sugar Bowl that, as Beck just said, is cranking up here in 10 minutes. And we'll have a lot to do on tomorrow's show, so very much looking forward to all of that. Got one more order of business today. That is take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
Alrighty, first one here. The PGA Tour season gets underway today at Kapalua Plantation Course in Hawaii, the Century. Huge fantasy gold year coming for Hunt. Take it or leave it.
Fantasy golf year? Yeah, it's going to be
huge.
You
put gold in here, Hunt. So
don't worry about that.
That's your fault, but no, I'm leaving it.
Leave it alone.
It's not going to happen.
You don't get to just override my take.
I'm overriding it, Hunt. You had a terrible season last year.
I've got a great pick this week.
Oh, who is it?
Sahith Theegala.
Wow, that's actually not a bad pick.
I think he got
that.
second last year in this event. It's an elevated event. I think I got to check the fantasy golf listings for this, but I feel like most of the people in the pool will probably take Justin Thomas because he's been a dominator on this course. But
he has been.
Give me Sahith, and I am fired up.
Let's
think
see
Sahith
who's
plays
teed
later.
off. Yeah, I think he tees off a little bit later. Right now, current leader Tom Hoagie at 6 under. So
we talk about this every year, but there are two weeks a year that we get true primetime golf. It's this week and next week. I'm so pumped that the Sugar Bowl is early. I can watch that. It'll go off, and then primetime golf from Kapalua will come on. It'll be chilly outside, dark outside, gorgeous views of Kapalua and golf shots being hit. It just really warms my heart the first week of the year. I'm excited to watch it.
It is pretty good stuff. All right, next one. You will play more than 8 rounds of golf in 2025. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I mean, I'm guaranteed 3 because I play in a tournament every year.
I was accounting for that.
And that's really all you can.
All
you can bank on.
You have to play a certain amount though for your handicap, correct?
Well, I need to play 6 times before that, but there's no chance of that happening because I need to roll a score off. I'm having a kid in March. That's not going to get me out on the golf course more. I promise you that. So I don't like my chances to play more than 8 rounds, and that's a sad state of affairs, Beck. I would venture to say, in 2018, I probably played
30.
Oh no, Beck. In 2013, I probably played.
No, 18. You said 2018.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In 2018, I probably played 75 rounds. I mean, absolutely.
Wow, impressive stuff.
My buddy logged over 100 this year.
Shout
out to the renewable energy game and working from home.
I was gonna say, does he have a child as well?
He's got 3 children.
Okay, so how does he do it, Hunt?
He wakes up and tees off at like 8 in the morning and plays really quickly, and all of his company's based in San Francisco, so they're just shuffling to the office
they're still
at 10
3
a.m.
hours behind.
2 hours our time, so he cranks them out in the morning.
Okay, well you got to be pretty dedicated for that. I don't know. You got the running going, so I'm not sure if that's for you.
I've not run in like 2 weeks.
We're not.
Well,
that's okay.
We're starting on Monday.
No, yeah. I mean, you can't expect anything from the last 2 weeks.
No.
All right, next one. Patrick Mahomes was not named to the AFC's Pro Bowl roster for the first time since he became the starter in Kansas City. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. He's awesome. They win a lot, but like statistically speaking,
he wasn't very good.
Burrow and Allen and Jackson have been way better. I don't know that anybody's in a hurry to take the other 3 guys over him when the playoffs start, but yeah, I mean, if we're going off like statistics and whatnot, it's been those guys. I'm pumped up for the LSU guys. 4 2019 LSU Tigers on the Pro Bowl. It's, of course, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Derek Stingley Jr. made his first one. And Jaden Daniels on the NFC Pro Bowl. And I wrote a story about that at LouisianaSports.net. Big time for those guys. 5 LSU Tigers in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, as you mentioned, their last one, Jaden Daniels, just the 4th rookie quarterback since 1970 to be selected to the initial Pro Bowl roster. This will be just the first of at least 5 Pro Bowls that Jaden Daniels will make. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
I will take it. I think he's awesome, and I think he's in the right conference.
Yes,
he
that's
doesn't have any of those horses on the other side with him. That's like the really discouraging thing when I think about Joe Burrow's career that's coming up.
Yep.
Like those guys really aren't going anywhere.
Mahomes probably has like he wasn't very good he wasn't great this year. He was good, but he's probably got 3 or 4 maybe at least left.
I think he's got more than that.
Maybe 5.
The question is how long does Andy Reid stick around?
Yeah,
How much does that matter? So we'll see. But as far as Jaden goes, like you're looking at the NFC and you're like, okay, like Jordan Love's had a nice year. I mean, you scared of Baker Mayfield. Like it's not a great Jalen Hurts quarterback. Like it's not a great quarterback conference at this point. So yeah, Jaden's in the right spot. Beck, name all the Saints Pro Bowlers. Go.
Nobody.
You nailed it. Not a single one. One of 3 teams in the National Football League that did not have a Pro Bowler, and I feel like that's not a super awesome selling point for your new head coach.
Not great.
So who we got here that makes a bunch of plays? Well, got some guys in the training room that generally do okay, but
not really though. They had a lot of injuries.
That's what I'm saying. They're in the training room. So it's.
I thought you meant like the training room staff.
No. I mean the guys who actually make the plays are in the training room and not at practice. But
they're not.
That's not a great thing for the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. All right, yeah, like I said, I'm fired up for the next 6 hours or so of my existence. Going to go home, catch some Sugar Bowl, and certainly dial in the Century this evening. And we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. If you missed any of today's show, talked about the Texas Bowl. I talked about the Saints with Luke Johnson, kind of how things have gone over the last week for New Orleans as they get ready to close out the season. Had my 5 bold predictions for LSU athletics in 2025. You can go back and listen to that on demand, or you can check it out at LouisianaSports.net. I have written it right there as well. So catch all our stuff on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Balmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Certainly appreciate you all for making us a part of your day each and every day. Matt is down at the Sugar Bowl, so he's going to step aside for today. Musso is going to jump in the big chair here for AFR. That's coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.